Hi guys, it's Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts. Thanks for being patient with my technical challenge here. Trying to get this camera set up with the best wide angle view that we can so we can have a really good view of our sewing area. Okay, so let me grab our templates for us to get started. So let me put these out here. And there's 4, but I will just start with a couple and I'll talk about them a little bit. So let's see if we can get those numbers into focus really well. Ooh, not what we're trying to do. Here, we're trying to show the numbers right there. So if you can see, 2.5, 4.5, 6.5, 8.5. So this particular fan is even numbers by half. Okay? Hi, Mary from Phoenix. So then the other one is going to have the odd numbers by half, right? So we'll set that over there. And then this is odd numbers, you know, so this is, the next one is even numbers. This is the one I use the most, just because I don't know why. I don't have a reason, but 2, 4, 6, 8, this is the one up to 12. So a lot of times people will be like, oh, why do I have to buy 4 of those? I only want to buy 1 of them. Well, that's okay. You can buy 1 of them, but 4 of them allows you to go from circles 2 inches up to 12 inches, and you have 1/2 inch increments. So there would be, 1 inch increments. So there's a 1/4 inch between each. So let me show you. So if we stick this one on here, so I'm going to use these 2 pieces and I'm going to show you how you can do some thoughtful planning for your Baptist fan. So on this one, I'll turn this just a little bit. So this would be the starting point, and the Circles on Quilts templates are pin-driven templates like this. So you would set the pin right at the corner, wherever you want it to start, and we'll talk more about that when we're actually sewing, but you would set the pin like that right at the corner, and then you would put your template right there. The pin would sit right there, and then you see this white line right here? The white line would line up with wherever the start of your design would be, like if you had a seam, a 90-degree seam. Because typically Baptist fan doesn't just kind of like have a full circle. It has a 1/4 circle and then everything builds to the right off of that 1/4 circle. So this particular template, let me just scoot it over here so you can see right there, that's 11. Okay, well if we take a rotary ruler real quick, let me show you. So this is the 11-inch circle. That means that the diameter of the circle is 11 inches. So if I put this on and I line this up, notice that this is 5.5, right? That the Baptist fan that is inside this space is 5.5. So if this is 11 and that's the tallest ring on this fan, then the way the Baptist fan is going to work, it's going to be half size in terms of your planning. So if I have the 10-inch ring, then I need to think about 5-inch boxes for my fan. If I am using the 6-inch number, so let's see where that one is. So if I was using this 6-inch right here, then the largest fan size that I could make with the 6-inch ring is going to be the 3-inch. So the first piece of the planning is knowing that whatever number you are choosing to work up to, so like if you choose to work all the way up to 12 and that's your first fan, then it's going to fit in a 6-inch box. Okay? And so that is very, very important information. So let me show you another picture that I have for you. Hi, Mary. Are you following me? Mary from Salt Lake. I get to talk to Mary twice in one day, so it's kind of cool. Okay, so let me grab some pictures that I have for you guys. See if we can get that under there. Ooh, just barely. Okay, so here is an example of what we're talking about. So this is a 5-inch box, and this is a 5-inch box. So this is made with the 10-inch diameter circle, so you can see that. So it's going to be 5 inches tall, and it's going to be 5 inches wide. And it doesn't mean that this is just the first one, right? You can obviously see that this one is bigger because he cuts into the space of the other box. But his diameter out here is still 5, and the height is still 5. So you can use this information for really, really important planning of your Baptist fan. So let's go ahead and we're going to simulate that with some actual fabric. Let me grab it. It's right over here. Alrighty. So it's kind of big. It doesn't fit in here just perfect, but I'll kind of show you it. Wow, we even have somebody from Scandinavia. So the question is, so the 12-inch will fit into a 6-inch square block. Yes, that is exactly correct. So this particular piece that I have, it's 20 inches right here. Okay, 20 inches long. And this direction, it's only 9. Okay, so I want to think about what would be the most appropriate size so that I can not just put a Baptist fan in here. I could just start right there and I could just make him fit. But think about it. If we did a 3-inch Baptist fan, right? So 3 inches will fit into 20 to about right there. And this would be the end of the Baptist fan. And then you'd have a little tiny piece of the Baptist fan right here. Only that much. The rest of it would be off here. So that would look really, really awkward, and I wouldn't like that. And some people don't care, but I would care. I wouldn't like that. And so then let's go on this side. So if we did a 3-inch Baptist fan here, it would be perfect, right? But it's not going to work the other way. So one of the things I try to do is I try to think about what would fit best both directions. So yeah, so Karen, you can play it later. It's going to be taped. We'll go ahead and post it, no problem. Happy Easter. Thank you from Melbourne. I am looking forward to Easter. Okay, I'm getting distracted by all you cool places that you guys are from. So when we're planning for the Baptist fan, we have to first think about what fits our quilt. So for example, if I have boxes on my quilt that are 4 inches. So it'd make like 4, 8, whatever. Well, I probably don't want to select exactly my 8-inch ring, because then what would happen is that is the exact same size as those boxes. So I would really want something that's maybe offset so there'd be no chance that it would fit right in the box and then maybe in the next one it wouldn't fit. I would want to do something that was a little bit more intentionally not to fit. Now with the 12-inch Circles on Quilts set, the largest Baptist fan that you can make with that particular one is the 12-inch circle, right? So that's going to make the largest one would be the 6-inch. So you can get the bigger Circles on Quilts sets that we have that go up to 18 inches. And if you did the 18-inch, then the biggest size that you could have would be up to 9. And that is a really nice big Baptist fan. So we have lots of options for you as you go forward. So let's think about this right now. So I'm going to take my measuring tool, and I know that 21 is a good number for a 3-inch Baptist fan, right? So that would mean that I would have to measure half of that. So this is the middle. Can you guys see that? This is the 10 inches on either side. So this is the middle right here. So it's 10 inches to the end and 10 inches to the end. So we said that 20 won't fit a 3-inch Baptist fan very well. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my starting space 21, because I know 3 will fit into that very well. And then half of that is 10.5. So I'm going to put the 10.5 right there. Okay. And I'm going to mark that out here on this side, right there. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that all the way along. that is a 1/2 inch bigger than our box. So let's see, I just marked it 1/2 inch. And then I'll have to do the same on the other side. So we're showing you on the 9 inch, everything's going to be perfect, right, as far as the length, the height. And then we need a 1/2 inch bigger box on this side, right? So we'll start right at the Baptist fan starting point on the bottom, because that's the height at 9. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to start with my pin, right there. I'm not going to start it right there. So I'll get a little partial, right? But this much, this is how big the Baptist fan will come outside the box on this side. And then it will come over the same amount on this side. So now the design is going to be balanced right to left in the design space. Okay, so let's start. Let's get our pin. The first thing that we need is the pin. Alrighty, I got lots of lights going on to help you guys, but it is hot as heck right here right now. Oh my goodness. We are in New Mexico, and it has definitely become nice and springy and sunny and warm. Okay, so I have my pin right there. So we said that we're going to do 3, 3, and 3. So we have to find our even numbered, our number 6 even numbers. All right, so why 6? 6 is not even. Who remembers? The 6 inch right there is going to make a 3 inch box. And if you were, really, really concerned, you could even mark your 3 inches. And what I recommend, though, is just mark this corner and plan for it, and then just go with it. Don't worry about if it cinches up a little bit or if it doesn't match exactly. We'll show you some tips to kind of keep everything level that will help you. But remember that fabric does move around, and what we're doing is getting us to a pretty good starting point. We're not going to have a full fan here and then a giant cutoff fan at the top. So we're doing pretty good. We're planning ahead. So let's see. So this white line that is right there is going to line up on our starting point. And this is outside of the quilt space, if you remember. This is the quilt, and this is scratch. So we can really do anything outside of the boundary if we want to. All right, I'm going to throw a little COVID-19 gratefulness out there to you. So my sister, my amazing sister, is a nail technician, and I had to do my nails myself today, and it was really challenging. So I just want to help everybody remember that there's a lot of people that help us in our lives, like our hairdressers and things like that, that make our life awesome and better. And so if you can thank somebody or send them something if they're having trouble with their job shutting down, that'd be a great way to help your community. Okay, so let's get this so you guys can see. With our circles on quilts, my foot is in this little niche. And when you're starting with circles on quilts, you got to pick a side. Pick the top or pick the bottom. It doesn't really matter which, it's still going to work out fine. But if you're bumping back and forth, then that's really going to make for a pretty curve. So go ahead and just pick one. And then you're going to start. I've pulled up my threads, and I'm just going to sew right out to the edge. And then I'm pivot this. The first one is always such a pain because he's so tiny. Oh. Okay, so now look, we're outside of our boundary right there, right? So I'm just going to go crazy. I'm just going to go, whoa, get in the channel, touch my ruler, and come back. Okay, and now we'll pivot. Let me cut this little thread. I got some long guys in my way here. Right there. I don't want to get trapped. Okay, so we're in this channel, and we're just going to keep going. Okay, now another thing that you can do, so we're outside of the quilt boundary. Just in your mind, the quilt boundary is the blue, and the purple is just the alignment for the design, but it is outside of the quilt. So what I could do here is I could lift up my needle, and I can lift up my foot, and I could just hop over to the next channel right there. You can't always do that when you're in the body of the quilt. Oh, Linda, such a good question. So Linda is asking, why do they not make the sewing space an exact fit for the foot? And the reason for that is you're on the curve. You're on the curve. If it was straight, it would be not a problem. But because it's on the curve and you have to pivot and move left and right and side to side in combination, they need a little bit more space for that. So that is why there is a little play in the channel. And believe me, you want that. So that is a really good question. So we'll go ahead and we'll do the next one. So once you get there, don't exit the channel. You know, when you pivot, just go ahead. Oh, do you guys see what happened? I did trap myself. So we hopped over. So when you hop over, you got to cut that thread. Otherwise, he's going to trap you. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll just keep going. And we'll keep going until we're outside the boundary of the quilt. And right now we're at 6, okay? So we're only doing 3, and I know you can see the shadow. I did choose a lighter thread because I have another quilt I was gonna show you later, so we need a lighter color for that. So right here, this is the 3 inches from here to here now, and then also to the top. So what do I do now? So now I do all of mine on the bottom, all the way across in a row. So this is row 1, and he'll go all the way across the end of the quilt. So in order to put the pin in the new place, I need a little space right there. He's actually gonna go right at the stopping point of the last Baptist fan. So we'll just scoot over, give you some space, and I know exactly where he has to go. I'll make a little dot for you though so you can see. He's gonna go right at the bottom of the last fan. So I don't have to guess where he goes. It's pretty easy. You know exactly where he's gonna go. He's gonna go right where you left off from the previous fan. Now I've saw a post where somebody was saying that they pin hop. So they put this pin and then they have 2 of them and they leapfrog them. So knowing myself, I'm never going to do that because God forbid that I should leave 1 pin in there or maybe sew across a pin that I forgot was in there. So I don't want to do that. You can do that if you want to, but I'm not doing it. Okay, so this is our channel right here. So we're going to come back. So remember out here, we're in the boundary out of the quilt. So we're just going to get ourselves into the channel, and I'm using the top. Okay, now right here, we're going to have to be a little bit careful. So we'll just go 1 or 2 stitches. And why am I going so slowly? So I'm going to move this out of the way. Look where I'm at. I'm on this spot now. So now I'm going to freehand up a little bit. How far up do I have to go? I have to go far enough that I can get into the next channel. So I can see I'm not quite there yet. So I'll go 1 or 2 more. And now I'm in the channel. Now I can sew the next one. Okay, I'm outside the boundary, so I can just hop over to the next channel. And I'm going to sew all the way back until I touch again to the one that I started with. So it's right there. So I'm about a little bit more than a ½ inch away. Okay, so I'm at the top now. So let me turn this so you guys can see a little bit. I'm at the top of the design. Oh my gosh, what do I do now? Anybody know? So Karen, I could just hop, but what am I hopping to? So this is my 3-inch height right here. This is the number 6 ring. So in order to continue this way, I need to be right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep my foot in place and I'm gonna keep my ring in place. And I'm just going to move myself back down. And this will be double stitched, but my thread is pretty fine. So now I'm out into the boundary, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm not trying to hide anything here. I got pens and markers falling all over the place, but you can see, so there's a little bit of a double stitch right there. But this thread is pretty fine, and it's pretty light, so no big deal. So now I'm down at the bottom. Oh, did I miss one? 1, 2, 3, what happened? Let me make a little mark here so we can see. Alrighty, so we're gonna give a reference line. Oh, I started on the wrong line, you guys. I did mess up. Okay, that's okay. We'll just fix them really quick. That's what you get when you have too many lines. Oh, let's see. I'll just fix this last one so that we can keep going. So, if you want to see what I did, so remember we have 3, 3, and 3 because this is 9. Well, then I started the pin down here. That's why he's shorter right here. So I'm just going to stick him on there, and I'll fix this last row really quick. And then we'll be good to go. Then we'll be correctly situated. And then I can always come back in and fix that later because that won't really interfere with any of the other designs because I'll have the outer border for the 6 right here. All right, so we'll get us back down there. Can you tell I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Live video. Julie, my friend Julie, she is awesome. I've worked with her at a quilt shop in my local area, and she always says that it's not a good demo unless you mess up. So this is that same height, so let's go ahead and mark that, and that'll be a good reminder to us that we need to be at that 3-inch height. So let me get everybody straight, and then we'll just put a nice big visual marker there for us. Right. Trying to get that squared up right there. It'll be about right there. So as we go across, if we don't hit this mark with our 3 inches, then we know there's something wrong. Okay, so we'll scoot over. So this time I'm going to remember where I need to put my pin, right? I'm going to put it on the blue right there. So let's go ahead and we'll make a mark so we know where he goes. All right, and I'm going to use my little pen to make sure that I can see it really well. And I can also just shift him down a little bit if I need some more room so that I can flip him. All right, this looks like he should go right there. Oh, get in there. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're right on our bottom line, and that'll get us right in where we need to go. So we need to come back to this first channel, and we'll just sew in. And we'll touch, and here we got to move up. And let's see, so a little bit more. So just go slowly and kind of get yourself in there. Looks like I went 1 too many stitches. There we go. All right. So we'll go into that next channel. This is our 3 inches. It's going to be 3 inches tall because this is number 6. So you can see he's going to hit that line just perfect. And then we'll come back in. And if we're at the top, this is a perfect opportunity to just follow him back down. So one of the things that you can always do with the Baptist fan is if you're ever on the wrong side for whatever reason, sometimes, you know, it depends on how many rounds you have, like if you have an even number or if you have an odd number. So that'll make a difference in what side you end up on. So you can see there's your perfect 3 inches tall, and that's the 3 inch wide right there. And then I would scoot over in my boundary, and I would go ahead and I can put my pin into the next one. And this will then walk me all the way along, because right now the boundary that we have set up, let me scoot this over real quick, is exactly 3 inches right here. When we added this space, this is going to be multiples of 3 inches along. So our design space is exactly the right size. Alrighty, so let's see. A veneer on the template. So tell me again, Susan. I didn't. My template is plain. This is the grid glider, and I think I just disarrayed it a little bit. Let's make sure I've got it set so I won't stitch through it. So this is my Sew Steady grid glider, and this is the small one. It's designed for machines with a little bit narrower throat. This actually machine has a really big throat, but I just like this one because it doesn't offer that much glare. It kind of seems like the glare is a little less, so I like it. All right, so let me see what other questions I would know what to do. Deb Thomas, I didn't understand your question, but if you had some more questions. Okay, so does anybody not understand or want me to sew more around this row? Because what I'm thinking of doing now is kind of just pausing right here and then moving to the top and showing how we would do the next row, how you would get ready for the next row. All right, so if you got like 2 seconds to let me know what you need. Oh, so Susan was like, she said that she meant gender. I do refer to the templates as him. I don't know why that is. It's nutty, but it's just my thing. It's a little more personal than it, I guess. Okay, so we're in the boundary right here. So if I was going to come back later and I wanted to go ahead and continue sewing this bottom row, then I would put the pin right at the base right there on this blue line, and I would be able to continue my design. And I would do this whole entire row as a continuous strip. And now I'm going to move to the top row. So I'm just going to pick my needle up, and I will go ahead and lift my foot and cut these threads. Make sure my pin is in a safe spot. No pins in there. Okay, so you can see now we want to start right here, just like we started right at the base right there. So on this side, see how we made the purple line? We didn't make it on the bottom because the blue was the line. That was where I went bananas. But on this one, the purple is the boundary of the design because this is that 3-inch increments right here. This is 21 and this is 20. So this is that 1/2 inch additional. So Pam Patrick asked, what do you do if you want to do an interior block? Pam, you would do this exactly the same way. For example, if your block was 8 inches and you wanted it to fit exactly, then I would do 4-inch, increments, and you could get 2 units to the right and 2 units up if you wanted it to fit exactly, and it would fit right in that seam allowance. And it's a little bit flexible on the right side of the design, it's not as flexible on this side, although we did go over a little bit, but this is a 1/4 right here, so this side's not that flexible. But on the other side right here, you can always just keep going a little bit further in the curvature off the edge and then just trim it, okay? So, okay, so let's go ahead. I'm checking questions, making sure I'm answering people. So let's go ahead. So remember what we said, this is our design boundary on this side now. And this is how we've accommodated for the fact that our curvature might not fit in our design space. So we've actually marked this as the actual design space. So it's going to kind of cut this one off a little bit, as you see. Okay, so here on the purple line, we'll put our pin in. Okay, and get him lined up again. And we can, start right on the purple. We don't have to start beyond it because remember, this is already going to be cut off. This blue line is still the boundary of the quilt. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm bumping you guys with my arm. My camera is right in front of me, so let's pick up that thread. So I'm being good today. Whoever caught me last live, I was not pulling up my threads and I was not being good. So I'm trying to be a little bit better today. I do get lazy, especially if it's a project that I don't really have too much concern about. So same thing here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to go until we touch that bottom part. So let's see, I'm really close. Okay, and then just move this out of the way. So let me turn it so you guys can see better. Okay, so somebody had a question. If you're not doing a quilt as you go, You don't have a wasted area. Yes, you do. Okay, are you telling me that if this was your quilt top, that you would not have batting and backing out here? Yes, you would. Just on this part, you're not going to have any wasted area in here. In here, you're going to have to travel on the curvatures always. But on the outer edge where you have, you know, here, let me show you. This is what I'm talking about. If this was your actual quilt right here, and you had your design starting out here in the margin, you could travel in here no problem on either side, right here and right here. In here, you would not do that. You would be traveling on the curve anytime you needed to travel, or you would cut your threads and restart in a new space. So yes, Karen, I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're definitely, it's only right here that I'm talking about, just to clarify that we can hop around and sew in the margin. All right. There's no outside border. Right, in the block, you would travel in the seam. Exactly so. You wouldn't have any excess or wasted space. This is for Pam Patrick. So right, if this was just the block and you sewed and then your block came up like this, then, you know, you would travel in the seam of the block. So here, I don't have to be careful, but if I wanted to be careful, I could. I could just stop on that line and stitch along and get into the next one and stitch along. This would only be if this was the outside of the quilt. That would be a way that you could freely travel and not have to be as careful. All right, so now let's go back. So see right here we have two curves. See how this one and then it connects right here? So right now we want to get all the way up to here. So we essentially have to travel to about right there. So it's a little bit trickier because we have to kind of get down to the bottom of this one, and then we have to come over to this one. So let me bring him in a little bit so we can make sure he's got a good estimate. Oh, too far. One stitch too much. We don't want to cause any bowing of the design. Like if I pulled it forward, then the fabric will distort back here. So just be careful not to do that, not to try to distort it. Okay. All right, so we'll do what they were just talking about, right? If this was the actual boundary of the quilt and we didn't have any border to travel, then I would move up in that seam, in that boundary, until I got aligned with the next channel. Okay, then I would put this on, and then I can travel, okay? And that's how you would do that. So this is our number 6, so we're at the bottom. This is the bottom of the curve, so let's turn it a little bit just to show you what we're doing. So this is our next row. So where does our pin go now? We have to move him. Our pin actually goes right there where that needle is, right there. So we have to actually move out of the way somewhat in order for the pin to fit. So just to give us some room, I can travel on either one of these. It doesn't matter. Down here, the curve for the next one is going to come from right there. So it's okay if I travel out there. So let's move the pin. I might need a little bit more room to flip him so I can get him on. Okay. I can see him, but I can't turn him enough for you to see him. But I'll show you the pin right when I get him on. Okay, so this is the base right there, and there's my pin. And hopefully I put him enough that I can get him on. So I can literally just come right to this part right here, and that'll be our first one, like that. And then I can just keep him tucked in. And then we'll sew up the chain until we get that next one. And there we go. And then let's talk for a minute about how one of the things that you'll notice is I'm not rotating my sandwich at all. Everything is still nice and square this way and nice and square this way. I don't have to rotate. So that is one of the awesome things about using the templates, you know, as opposed to maybe using a walking foot or something like that. So you can see I don't quite have it, so I'll stitch just a few more. Maybe one more, two more. Okay, and then we'll get in. All right, so we're there, so we'll have to get ourselves back down to the bottom. Right there, okay? So I'll take him off so you can see how he's forming. So cute, right? And I like the 3 because one of the designs that I think is really fun to do if you ever wanted to try this. So here would be just one example of something that you could do. Oh, I did it in the wrong space. Darn it. Okay, we'll do it over here. Because there's 3 units right here, it's kind of fun. And then you can just put a fill in every 3rd one. So then this one would be the same. These are from my free motion friends. I know we're not all those people, but I do always encourage people, you know, don't be limited. Go ahead and try whatever you want to do. Karen, so Karen, yes, we talked about, does it matter? No, it's still going to work out fine. It is slightly smaller. So if this is 3 inches, we're saying, and use the inner, it's slightly smaller than 3, but not enough for me to care. I just keep moving and it'll be fine. As long as you stay consistent with your own choice, like if you always use the outer dimension to it, you know, whatever your convention, stay at the top or stay at the bottom, as long as you stay consistent, your design is going to stay consistent as well. Okay. All right. So what would we do now? Anybody know? What's our next step? It's a test. Okay. So I'll do it. You guys tell me if I'm right or wrong. Should I go this way? What do you think? Is that wrong? Anybody? It doesn't have to be. I still can fit the pin in there and I can sew down. And then that would be down, up, and back down. So remember we talked about how you can plan a little bit ahead to make sure that you're getting, you know, the right dimensions. So you saw we had to sew back down after we got to 6. So I'll show you this right here. We won't have to. All right, get our pin in. Good enough. All right, so because this time I traveled up instead of down this way, watch what we can do. We'll get this guy on there, and we're a little bit too high for our space. So get the channel. And I want to tell you, it seems like it goes really slow here, but I can do this actually quite fast. You know, it's different when you're trying to do it so people can observe what you're doing and so they can follow along and things like that. It really does go quite quickly. Okay, we have about 4 more stitches to get into that line. All right, and then we'll scoot him out of the way and we'll move up to the next line. And let's see, not quite, a little bit more. So let's talk about that whole overstitching thing for a second. So overstitching is really, really important in this design. You have to travel a lot. And I think that it's like anything. So here's my fun story about this. So Johnny goes out to the soccer field and mom takes him, or grandma. And Johnny goes out there and the coach gives him a ball and he gets ready and he tries to kick the ball and he misses. And grandma walks over there and she's just, consoling him and smiling. And she's like, "Oh, okay, Johnny, why don't you give the coach back the ball and we're going to go home. It's clear that you're no good at this." Said no grandparent or parent ever, right? So why do we do that as quilters to ourselves? We shouldn't be doing that to ourselves either. So I don't want to hear anybody say, "Oh, I'm no good at overstitching." What I really want you to ask yourself is, how many times have you actually practiced it or avoided it? And then you can use that as your guideline. So right here, we would have the next quilt coming out here. That would be our bumper right here. So you can see if we just kept sewing, we'd be like, whoa, way down here. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'll tack it off right here. And I'll go ahead and cut it, and then I'll just pick it up later on when I want to fill in the design. But let's take our pin out. So you can see that that makes it easy for you to go different ways. And this is that 1 inch, but let me grab one of our other templates really quick, and let's see, where can we do it? I think we'll do it right at the center because we have a good marking right there. Let's put our little pin back in. I think we're good, so let me grab one of those other ones. So we did the evens. So this time we'll do, this is the 2.5, 4.5, whatever, like that, okay? So let me stick that on there. Notice really quickly that this interior space now is lined up on your existing spaces. So now what does that tell you? That this is going to be sewing a 1/4 inch away from the design that you've already got on there. So let's just play with that for a second. Okay, and we'll just come out. And then we can just come right up above this line. And that should get us lined up. Right about there. And here we'll just scoot up and we'll just use the channel. So let me go ahead and show that. Let's see. So that's a really good question, Trish. Trish is asking, would I swap them while the pin is in place? I think that is actually the most practical way to do it, because you'd have to be moving your pin every time. Can you imagine sewing the whole quilt with moving the pin for each one and then coming back and doing it again? You can do that if you wanted to. Or let's say you just wanted to put embellishments in maybe 6 of them, then I would just put the pin back in and just do the embellishments like that. But I would probably swap them while I was working. But don't you think that looks really cool to have that additional embellishment like that? It really creates a lot of fun definition. And then this becomes a space that you can fill, and then this channel can stay puffy. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, that would be something that would be really fun, and that would make you have a lot of different options as far as that goes. And you've got a lot of different sizes. And so what I wanted to show you right here is this was a 2-inch curvature right here, and then this is 2.5. And what do you notice? This is only a 1/2 inch, not a 1/2 inch, a 1/4 inch differential. So between all of the templates, you would be able to have a 1/4 inch concentric circles with these templates if you have the full set. This is set 3. So set 3 has odds and evens, and then by half evens and by half odds. And so that would allow you to have, 1/4 inch all the way, concentric circles a 1/4 inch apart. And then just from each template, they'll be 1 inch apart. So even though it says, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, that's not 2 inches in between. It's actually just 1 inch in between each of those lines. So that's just something that it's kind of fun to note and to make yourself aware of. You can't say that I'll have 2 inch and 3 inch and whatever, because what the 2 and the 3 inch is only going to give you a half in between each of those. It's not going to give you an inch. So if you wanted a narrower spacing for yours, then you would put that 3 inch, and then that would cut that space right in half, and that would give you a 1/2 inch instead of the 1 inch. A single template will space it by 1 inch, and then alternating it will give you either 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. So it depends on, you know, if we went 2 to 2.5, that's the 1/4. If we went 2 to 3, that's 1/2. What type of marking pen am I using, and is it removable? Yes. So let me show you what I have. People always ask that. So this is the Styla marker, and it's water soluble. That's this one. And most people know this, but I'll just reiterate. If you use any of these blue ink markers that are quilt soluble markers, I don't ever recommend putting any heat on them because they come back sometimes. So I actually don't use the blue one very much, but I needed some different colors for you. This is the Collins Purple Air Erase, and it's kind of a fat marker, and I love it. And the reason I love the Styla marker is because that is a rollerball cap on there, which is so awesome. Look at that. So if you're having trouble marking on your fabrics, the Styla with the rollerball is going to give you a pretty fine mark. Let's see if I can write my name. And you can see how easily he wrote on there. Really easy. So these come in the Purple Air Erase and in the blue. And these are from Collins, and I love them. How do you travel when you are inside of the quilt and the border is already sewn? Okay, so we'll do that right now. Okay. So let's say that we were at the bottom. Here, we'll just go over to here. So let's say we were at the bottom of the quilt and we need to travel. Let me turn it so you guys can see. All right, so pretend this is already sewn, and this is our seam allowance, and we have to travel on it. Any of our straight edge is going to allow us to travel on the straight edge. Right? So we would just use our spacing gauge. In case you guys haven't seen this, this is our spacing gauge lanyard, and look how cool it is. Boom! I am the queen of losing my spacing gauge, and I love that it has a little colored tag that is quite visible. And if I need to use it and my neck strap isn't long enough, I can just take it off, and I'll just line it up. When you line up your spacing gauge, that is not lined up. The flat edge right here needs to be against the template and flat, and then the very outside edge right here should be where you want your needle to go. And you would want to be very careful, like if you wanted your needle right in the middle of the seam or on slightly to the right or left, depending on your pressing, then you're going to make sure that you use that outside edge of your spacing gauge to help you put the needle right where you want to. So let me get my finger set. So we're coming this way, so I've got a little bit of pressure right here on the foot, and I've got pressure going forwards. I like to make sure that you have widely dispersed pressure. If I'm holding out here and I push, then it's just going to pivot, right? So you got to make sure that you have pressure all the way along the ruler, right at the foot and where you're going. Okay, so we'll get it lined up again. All right, so we'll just sew down. So this would be our seam allowance that we would travel in the seam allowance right here. And we'll travel right here. So right there is where we would start with the pin. So we actually have to sew beyond that because we have to put the pin in, and we need to be on the far side of the pin. Okay, so and I might go just a tiny bit further just in case, so I can flip the sandwich and get the pin in. All right, so let's see. So right there is where we would want to put the pin in. This is for Sylvain, so thank you for asking. So I'll put the pin in right there. Okay, and I've traveled in my seam boundary, and then I'm on my even numbered templates. Let me get all these other guys out of here because they're in my way. Right, and now we want to travel back, so I would travel in that seam until the ruler is in the right place. And now I can sew that first loop right there. Okay, and then this is where you're practicing. When you're practicing overstitching, here is my best tip for you. You cannot move too slowly. Okay, this is your quilt sandwich and this is your needle, right? If your needle is just slowly coming up and slowly going back down, it's pinning your sandwich in place and you can't move it, and you have to move it. So you need a steady movement. It doesn't have to be fast, but you have to have some movement. So make sure that when you press the gas, go. Okay, don't just be like super pedantic. We have to come up to our next row. So we'll go a little bit further. Let's see, right there. And then this would be the next one. Okay, we'd stop right in the seam, okay, because we're doing it in the seam here. So we'll have to move up in the seam, and you can use your spacing gauge if you want to, right here. This is straight, but we'd have to get up enough so that we can get in the next channel, which is this one. And now we'll go to the next channel. Okay. And he would connect right to that top right there. Now I can stitch back down using the template or not. It's up to you. I would leave the template on just because it's easy. I don't have to think about it too much. He does sew right back where he needs to, so that's pretty convenient. All right, and then if we were down at the bottom, okay, that's where the pin has to go right there. And if I was in the seam and this was already a sewn in space, I would again use my spacing gauge and travel just a little bit further and get him out of the way of the pin. It's about 1.5 inches to 2 inches that you need in order to get in there and get the pin. So I would take the pin from here and I'd put it there, and I'd put that Circles on Quilts right back inside. So Sylvain, I hope that answered your question. So do I have any more questions as we're going? So we've talked about how to fit it. So let me go ahead. I'm going to cut this really fast. I've got 1 or 2 more things I'm going to show you. So let me grab a quilt that I have that I want to show you. Make sure I have my pin safely picked up. I have stepped on one before in the sewing room. Okay. All right, so this is kind of big, so let's make some space for him. Her. We'll call this one a girl. She looks girly. All right, here we go. So this is a real quilt, okay? And the measurement right here is the middle of the quilt. And let me see if I can show you on the side. This is the middle of the quilt right there. So this quilt measures 28 by 40.5. So I'll just write that on here really quick so you can see. The quilt measurement is 28.5 by 40.5. Okay? And these blocks right here, this is about a 4-inch block as far as this space right here. And so I didn't want to choose 4-inch anything that would just perfectly sort of fit in there. I wanted to make the look of the Baptist fan go over multiple blocks. So I chose the biggest I could get, which is the 6-inch size. Okay, so right here. That means that I'll be using the 12-inch circle, and that will make the 6-inch unit at the beginning. And I've marked the boundary of the design right here. So if this is 40.5, 6 is not an even number that will go into that. So this actually is the marking for 42 from the longer measure. Okay, and then on here, this is 30, right? Because this is 28 this way. And then this is the 1/2 inch for 30. So 42 and 30 are both multiples of 6. So I should be able to get even increments. Now, how did I measure this out here? If I know 42 is my number, right, I'm going to take half of that from the center and measure out. And if it was the other direction and it was the 28, I would take the half of the 28.5, which is 14.25. Do you include the edge seam allowance when measuring width and height? I do, especially if it's outside of the boundary right here, right? It doesn't matter. I'm going to start the design, and the design's going to be sewn in all of this space right here. It's going to come over the edge like this, and then back and whatever, and then move to the next one. But by starting it at this boundary and making the design come all this way like this, then it's going to evenly come in on each side. So instead of having this much of a Baptist fan on the top and having a full Baptist fan on the other side down on the bottom, it's going to have only this much cut off the top, and it's going to have only this much cut off on the bottom. And so using this now marked boundary, this is 42 by 30, this is what I will line up the template with when I start sewing. So if I'm going to sew this way, I'm going to line this up on the edge, and I'm going to sew, and I'm going to sew, and then I can travel in the margins out here if I want to, and sew down and travel until I fill all of these. So this is the 12. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rows, which is a lot. But remember, these will be 1 inch apart, so there'll still be a good amount of open space if you just use a single fan. So this way, I'll have an appropriately sized unit that won't just fit exactly right inside that block. It'll cover more than that, so it'll kind of offset, so it won't be, you know, trying to look perfect but then not be perfect. It will be intentionally bigger than the unifying space. This is 8. So our 6-inch space is not going to fit and fill this in any capacity. It'll be like somewhere in there. And then it'll be offset for each individual fan, and it won't look like we're trying to fit it into these spaces. It will fit better. Okay, and then I will make the design to fill this outer boundary. And I want to show you one more thing that we need to do. So let me grab one more tool. When you mark your outer boundary, I have one more thing I want to show you. Okay. And I would also baste this edge right here. I would literally sew it down because your ruler foot is going to have to come up over it. So I would stitch it really close to the edge, and that would hold it in place and make sure that the ruler foot can go without doing this. So as the ruler foot might travel, it might go like that. You don't want that. You want this to be stitched down. So just stitch it inside of your seam allowance for your binding, but that'll make sure that this is going to be really secure so that you won't have any problems with it popping up. Okay, so let me show you, see if we can get our camera in there. So if this is my spot and I have a squared up corner, so I'll line that up. I want to look first, let me scoot this up a little for you. Once I line that up, I want to check and see, are my corner measurement up there, is it square to the quilt? So what I mean is, like, let's say it was like that. That's really an exaggeration. Sometimes your quilt may not be square, but maybe you can make this square corner better so that your Baptist fan will fit more symmetrically by lining it up there. what if that outer boundary is an actual border? If it was already sewn, I would just start sewing. So Margie was asking, what if the outer boundary is an actual border? It's the same. You're going to sew outside the border, right? Isn't that what we're talking about? We're saying that we would start, if your quilt measured exactly, then you could start right at the corner of your boundary. And if that were the case, I would try to put my first pin, like if this was a boundary and you had a seam allowance, I'd try to put my pin right in the seam allowance. So not in the little outer part right there, not in the 1/4 inch, but right there, because then you'll be able to get the full effect right in your sewing field. So hopefully, Margie, that answered your question. Hi, Miss Morgan. Okay, so remember what I said. So after you mark your boundaries and everything else, I want you to put a squaring ruler on that boundary, and I want you to line up the corners right there, and then I want you to look and say, hey, is that lined up with my quilt lines pretty good or not? It doesn't have to be on the line, it has to be parallel to the line, so that essentially when you make your Baptist fans, you don't want them kind of be like, you know, if this is the Baptist fan, we want it to go square to the quilt. We don't want it to be like, oh, we're going across like that. Yeah, so I understood what she was saying if the border is attached. So Karen was kind of clarifying what Margie was asking. So if your border is attached to the quilt on the inside, it's already attached. So like, let's say that this was the border, right? Then I would assume that at some point out here, there's no attachment, right? So if this was already attached, I would just plan from this as if this were the boundary, and then just sew like that. Okay, and if you wanted, you could make the pin start right inside the seam allowance like that. Okay, but that shouldn't matter. Everything that I talked about as far as measuring, that will still work. You would just think of the border as part of the quilt, as part of the whole space. If the border was, say, 27.5, well, no Baptist fan is exactly 27.5. I mean, I can't even do the math on that. My head is hurting. But, you know, you would want to pick a number that the fan would actually fit in there. So if it's 28, that's divisible by 7. So maybe that could be the boundary that you would add out here. You would add a 1/4 inch out here and a 1/4 inch on the other side. And then that is an easy number to work with. So it won't matter. It just, you got to think of the whole quilt as a totality and not try to say, if she's saying that she just wants the Baptist fan in the border only, then that's a whole nother thing. Then the boundary of that quilt is the border only. And then she still needs to think about if that Baptist fan can fit. I mean, if it's a 6-inch border, you're golden. You can easily do that with a 3-inch or with the 6 or the 12-inch circle. But if it's an odd size, you're just going to have to decide what part of the Baptist fan is going to get cut off, and do you want it centered on the border, or do you care? Maybe you don't care. Oh, Karen, you're killing me. I'm not a math student, I'm a quilter. I would use my calculator to calculate all my numbers. In college, I did take calculus, and it was torture. I was horrible at it. In fact, my teacher used to call me constantly clueless because it was so challenging. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a last minute or two. So that was my last thing, is just once you make your boundary and you've planned all of your math, which I know it's the M word, I hate it, math, but quilting is a lot of math, and people have been asking and asking for this demo about how to plan for their Baptist fan. So if you have any last questions, I would so appreciate it if you would let me know right now, and we'll go ahead and try to address them. Okay, and then if not, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get a big glass of water because it's really hot under these lights. So, oh, Sylvain, thank you so much. Oh, Mary, thank you. I appreciate it. So is there any last people out there who are like, what? Oh, Diane, I love this. Okay, here. Diane hasn't seen this template. So I know, thank you, Linda. Thank you for seconding me. I was double checking myself in my brain. Oh, okay. So since, let me see, I think it was Diana, not Diane. I'm going to show you one more thing because Diana hasn't seen this template before, so I'm going to show her something else really cool. All right, so one of the cool features of this template, I'll just use this open space right here. Wherever you want your circle to be, let's say we want to center our circle right there. I want my circle to center on that dot right there. All right, so then I would put the pin right in that spot. Let's see if I can find the hole. Where'd he go? Should be right there. Oh, I didn't get it. Oh, close enough. All right, so you can see I'm a little bit off, but it won't matter because we're just playing. So one of the things I love about these templates, and the fact is that we didn't really showcase that, is these make amazing concentric circles, right? So you can just spin your template. And I'll try to keep my fabric square so you can see that I don't have to rotate my sandwich at all. I'm just rotating the template, and I can sew 360 and get everybody to go however they want. Let me get that extra thread out of there. He's tiny, but he's powerful. So I'm also going to tell you, I like to share what thread I'm using. So this is a 80 top stitch needle from Superior, and I'm also using 100 weight kimono thread. And the reason I chose this thread is it's very lightweight, and I'm going to be using it on that other quilt after we are finished. So I'll tag this off with a few stitches, and then I'll just bring my needle and my foot up, and I can just stick it right in there. And now I can do the next one. Notice I didn't trap myself there. I stuck the thread under, so he won't be trapping me this time. And I can just keep rotating and keep him right against the foot, and I can make beautiful, beautiful concentric circles. One of the other things that I love to do is you can then, after you make a few circles, we'll go ahead and we'll shift the pin, and then we'll show you how to make a little decorative art piece with this. So let me show you right here. You can see I'm staying in the channel where I was. I'm on the top, and it does come right into where it left off. So let me, I'll even just move this out of the way so you can see. So you can see that's the end right there. So I was able to stitch right back over. So as long as you're not pulling on your fabric, it's pretty easy to make absolutely gorgeous circles with this tool. And then if we wanted to, we can put another circle on here. This is the other one. So this one was the evens, and then this one would be the odds. Not odds, halves. So get him over there. And you can go either way. So you can see before I was going the other way, but now I can go this way. It doesn't matter, it's just your personal preference. It doesn't change anything. So Sew Steady has some really fun stuff that you can do with this. I know that Geraldine Wilkins, she is a, oh, can't think of it. She's an ambassador for a fabric company. I know she's going to be sad that I don't remember the name of them. My brain is fried right now because I'm concentrating on sewing. But she has a really, really cute project that she made using these templates that I think is so elegant and gorgeous. So I want to give her props for that. But there you can see. And then this could be really fun where you could do some different fills in here. And then you can just move this to another spot. We'll just move him randomly. And then we'll stick this back on and we'll tack off. I'll actually cut that just because I don't want to be stuck. All right, and then we'll just start over here. And now we can make another circle. And now these circles will intersect. So let me get this little guy. Oh, so many threads everywhere. And then this would let you make some really cute intersecting circles. And here's my little thing that I recommend. You should take all of your leftover bobbins, especially your multi-tonal ones, and just sew circles in different colors. And then you can just use this as a piece and stick it in your quilt, and it looks so awesome. It's really fun. Alrighty. So I can tell you I am not very patient. I hate the little baby ones. They're my least favorite ones to sew because they seem like they take forever. All right, so tack them off and then we'll just cut it. So Diane, I hope that was fun and you can see that that could give you a lot of different options. So the set that I have is the Circles on Quilts set number 3, and it's a 4-piece set. So it has the odds and even numbers, and it has by half. And the pin does come with it, and it does come with the staple tape. I do put just a random smaller piece of staple tape inside the finger in case I need that support. Depends on how you're holding it or, you know, what orientation you have. And anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And what patterns do you insert within the curves? Oh, you guys are always asking such good questions. Okay, so I'll do something over here. See if we can put one of these curves. We'll use this curve right here. So this thread is kind of light, so it might be hard to see, but there's just so many different things that you can do. So, all right, get my free motion brain on. So when you do this, let's think for a second. The inner loop, this loop has to be smaller than the outer loop because the outer loop has to travel farther, so he has to be bigger. So you're going to make a little bit smaller loop, and then the outer loop has to be a little bit bigger. And I recommend practicing this on paper because as you curve it, it can be a little tricky. So I've practiced this many times on paper to get me the design that I want to have. So there you go. There's some fun design. Okay, and then since I want to practice what I preach, we'll just overstitch. Okay, when I started overstitching, I sucked at it. I was terrible. I was not good at it. So it's not that I'm magically skilled. I practiced it a lot of times. And I had another quilting teacher tell me, if you don't do it, you can't ever become good at it. So just like Johnny, you're going to get back out on that soccer field and you're going to have to practice it a bunch more times. Okay, and then let's see, we'll do one more. We have one more little spot there. Can you guys see that? So that's the wishbone loops. Okay, and then we'll come down here and we'll do just some loop-de-loops. So this one is super easy. This is use your ruler foot as your spacing gauge. Remember that it's got to be wider on the outside than it is on the inside because it's the same thing. So you can just do a little wiggle. And then there's another little wiggle that you can put in there. You can see he's really cute. So let me cut him. I'll bring these a little closer so you can see. So there are just a few ideas. And we also have the jewel templates, which make circles in a channel. And they have different measurements that you can use. Like, you know, the jewel templates have, I think, 10.5 or whatever. So they have the same arc as a circle. So you can use those and you can put circles from that template in there, and they actually would fill as a circle. So that could be another option for you if you have some of those templates as well. Alrighty, so let's see if I've answered any last questions. Margaret Fraser, such a good question. She's asking if I have a handout. I don't. I just try to mathematically find something that isn't going to be a big waste of space. Like if I chose, say I chose 50 inches, for example, or 52. Well, I mean, that's if the quilt's only 40, 50 is a lot of extra space outside, so that seems kind of wasteful. So I would try to use both numbers, this way, and find what works between both of those numbers with the least amount of excess work outside of the boundary. And I'm sorry, I don't have a handout, ladies. I am knee-deep in getting ready for my book launch, so I will not be able to provide that at this time. Really loved your explanation. Thank you. Miss Kate. Kate, my matcher, my name matching friend, my name twin. Thank you for saying that. You have to say, yes, this is from Cindy Fitzgerald. Please, yes, stay on the same side of the channel that you start with, or you will get a little zag over. So if you're on the outside and you move to the inside, you're going to get that. You're going to get a little zigzag. Let's see who else has a question. Yay, thank you, Ingrid. I'm so glad that you're encouraged. They are so fun. Margie, thank you. I'm going to give this out. Geraldine is an Island Batik ambassador, and I apologize for not having that in my head when I needed to, but I just could not pull it up. But she's a super talented educator for us, and she's done a really, really cute circle project. So hopefully you guys can look her up and see her beautiful circle project. I love this. Let's see. Why does the template always turn without a problem? Okay, Susan Digman, answering your question. The only problem that I ever have with it not turning is usually when I have a thread trapping it. I really don't have any problem with it turning. I've never had that happen. If you're having that, why don't you private message me and we can try to troubleshoot for you and see what that is. Okay, next question. Did you spray baste your sandwich? If my sandwich is this size, no, I never do. I'm not going to waste any time or energy or materials doing that on a small piece. I just press it really good and I flatten it out, and it usually works really well, especially with a small piece. For a larger quilt, the one that I showed you, that is spray basted, and I like spray based. It's convenient, it's fast. If I was working on a full-size quilt, like 60 by 80 or bigger than that, I would probably be sewing it with my Westalee templates on my long arm. Are those also Westalee? Karen, what was the question? What is what also Westalee? I don't know the answer until you give me more information. Carol Young, thank you. Yes, Karen. Karen was asking, are the jewel templates from Westalee? Yes, they are so, so cute. I don't have them here right at this moment, but they are very, very cute. And what they do is they allow you to make even circles in a circular channel. Maybe touching, maybe not. It depends on the diameter of the circle. Not like that. The circle will go like this. So you'll either be able to travel on the bottom or on the top or both. And then it'll make the circles in a channel like that. So love those jewel templates. They have 1/2-inch circles, 1-inch circles, diamonds, hearts, and I think we have hexagons too, if I'm correct. And those were a relatively more recent release from Leonie West. I know they're over a year old, but they are just really, really, really cute. So you can definitely find them on our Sew Steady page. And there's definitely some examples of how they look if you are interested in that. Hello, LJ Davy. So you guys, thank you so much. It has been quite a while. I appreciate you guys sticking with me, and I hope that you found this edifying. And I'm going to go ahead and let you go back to your lives. And I hope all of you are safe and, you know, doing what you need to do to protect your health and helping those that you can help. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here.